Hey guys, Peter Franson here from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Essential Issues Weekly, where I talk about DC Comics 1 week after their release on the Ultra tier of the DC Universe Infinite subscription service. If you're on the standard tier of DC Universe Infinite, follow Christian Geek Central on Twitter at Christian_geek to get specially labeled notifications of Essential Issues Weekly and the monthly podcast that will coincide with that standard tier release schedule. In each installment, I pick an assortment of comics to talk about as a DC fan and also explore what, if anything, they have to say about the essential issues of real life. Now, warning, full spoilers for everything I talk about, so this is your first and only warning that many spoilers lie ahead. Right now, we're taking a look at comics originally, actually just one comic, released to the Ultra tier on July 11th, 2023, and that's Green Lantern number 2, originally published June 13th, 2023. Now, I've really enjoyed a lot of Jeremy Adams' run on The Flash, and he's writing this book now, and I think I'm already noticing maybe some characteristics of Adams' writing, because he's still a pretty new writer to me, but there's just a joyfulness that I'm sensing in this book. Hal Jordan was without a ring for a little while, and then he finds a way to kind of create his own, which that was explained in the previous issue. But you feel like, at least I did, that he doesn't take for granted that he has a ring again, and he doesn't take for granted that he can fly again, and really seems to enjoy flying. And so I feel like there's just this freshness to his experience and his appreciation for what he has, and I think that's a really cool thing to see in a comic book, especially with a character that's been around for so long. I mean, another example of his joyfulness is that as he's testing out his ring, he understandably doesn't want to take on like a huge big bad, so he takes on some kind of street level criminals, but he decides to have some fun with it and creates like this legion of evil spirits with his projection, with, just simulated evil spirits with his ring, just to see if he can make constructs and stuff. And instead of like outing himself as Green Lantern, like, hey, I'm here, I'm going to do the Green Lantern thing, he stays out of sight and just has these green ghosts kind of haunt these criminals and freak them out and get them to turn themselves in. And so he's just kind of having some fun with the ring at this point. What's interesting to me as a longtime Green Lantern reader is that the ghosts here look about as detailed and quote-unquote realistic as a construct created by Kyle Rayner, who, when his career launched as a Green Lantern, he was really set apart from Green Lanterns of the past in that his constructs looked much more detailed because they explained he's a visual artist. And now, in the years since then, they've kind of passed around the complexity of construct creation to multiple Green Lanterns. I don't know if it's as much of a defining factor anymore, but it did stand out to me as like, whoa, okay, Hal's really creating some complex stuff. But I mean, that's okay. As a reader, I like to see these kinds of ring constructs, and so I can shrug and say, okay, well, maybe he was just hanging out with Kyle for a while, or maybe he's just a little better at it now. I don't know. Now, all of this stuff I'm talking about takes place in like the first half of this issue, which takes place, quote unquote, 1 month ago. And I think they did some of that last issue, if I'm not mistaken. And where this 1 month ago segment ends is with him testing out his flying ability. So he flies high up into the air and actually gets to about low orbit, I would say. But at that point, the ring dies on him and he starts plummeting back to Earth just in his civilian wear. I mean, he seems to be completely without any of the Power Ring's capabilities. We don't know what this is about. And the next page basically says present day. And so I guess that particular cliffhanger will be resolved in a future issue. But meanwhile, in the present day, Hal has to figure out a new job. As I said and shared last issue, they really don't have need for test pilots as much anymore at Ferris Aircraft, where he's traditionally worked in the past, because they're getting into drones, which totally makes sense in the age that we're in today. So he's feeling a little bit lost, but eventually finds his way toward, without his longtime on-again, off-again love interest, Carol Ferris, who basically owns and runs Ferris Aircraft. Without her knowing, he somehow gets the job as the first officer on Ferris Aircraft's private corporate jet. yet. So that very cleverly brings him back into Carol Ferris's life, and that she's moved on and has a boyfriend now, that they seem to be pretty serious, but Hal injects himself back into her life, and already some friction is beginning, and it seems like that's kind of where the main character-oriented content of this book will be, at least in this first arc, and I really appreciate that. Any time that you can kind of couch the big superheroic stuff in terms that are a little bit more relatable, a little bit more grounded, I really appreciate that kind of character-oriented stuff. So, no, I'm not detecting any particular philosophical or moral themes going on. It's really kind of a playful vibe at the start here, but maybe eventually themes of reconciliation or having responsibility in relationships, because that is apparently how Hal has broken her heart one too many times. Carol's just like, yeah, he seems great, but he's a guy that's gonna break your heart. It's pretty much a guarantee. And so maybe there'll be some kind of like growing up for Hal at some point. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but those are all of my thoughts, I guess, on comics for now. I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below, as always. Also, remember to check out christiangeekcentral.com for tons more content. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.